and welcome to Carl and Rick Talk Risk. Rick, how are you doing?
Unbelievable, man. But I've got new digs now. I've got booted out of my office due to some home renovations. So, here we go.
New
Um,
background. It's as good as a
yeah,
holiday.
yeah. So I'm in an old spare bedroom that one of our daughters decided that she wanted it to be yellow. So I'm in what we call the yellow room.
It's got that kind of Lunenburg yellow tint to it. I kind of like it. It's yeah.
There
People will
you
have
go.
to look up Lunenburg.
I hope it doesn't make doesn't make my complexion look bad. But anyway.
It's a great contrast. Don't worry. Hey, and maybe we'll find a good still picture for the video this time.
Yeah, I'm sure
So
it's going to
we'll
be
try.
me going like
Yeah.
this.
Anyway, okay, Rick, this week, you brought up an article that I had heard about too, but I didn't put it into the perspective you did. So I'm glad you brought it up. The province of Ontario in Canada, several school districts, I believe, are
Yeah.
suing social media companies like Facebook, Snapchat. I'm not sure of the others. And they're doing it because they see their school children totally vulnerable and addicted to social media. And schools are probably a bit frustrated at just not being able to teach kids anymore, that their attention spans are just not there. And, unlike us who, hopefully have quite a bit of executive function and can actually will ourselves off it and can set up time limits on apps, that kind of stuff, you know, kids can't really exercise that level of constraint at that point in their lives. And they're just, falling hook, line, and sinker for social media. And Rick, you and I haven't spoken about him, but I know we both read Jonathan Haidt. He just came out with a new book this week called The Anxious Generation about this topic, about, phone use. And if I'm remembering correctly, for teenagers, the average daily phone use is somewhere around 8 hours. And that's outside of sleep, obviously, outside of school, outside of everything else they're doing. 8 hours of phone use a day, and most of that is on social media. That's incredible. I mean, could you find 8 hours a day to do social media?
Uh, I probably could find 8 hours a day, but after about 4 minutes, I kind of go a little bit batty. So uh, the time wouldn't be the issue. The mental ability to deal with it would be the issue. You know, as a university professor, I kind of have jokingly say that uh, I can date an apocalypse based on when the iPhone was introduced. Um, uh, it literally was over the space of 6 months, uh, could see a drastic change in university students.
Yeah.
And so I can't imagine, uh, the situation at the junior high, high school, or even elementary school levels.
Mhm.
But there was an article in one of the papers today, and I'm too lazy to relook it up, that was actually talking about Jonathan Haidt's book. And what it emphasized that in raising our kids, we're so careful to bubble wrap them, which I think that we've talked about bubble wrapping kids before, and the dangers of bubble wrapping kids. But we're so careful to bubble wrap our kids against physical risks, but yet
Mhm.
still we're incredibly cavalier about this monster social media risk, and which is far more dangerous. The statistics show that it's far safer to be a kid today than it was 20 years ago in terms of the physical risks that we protect our kids against. But we've got this tsunami of a social risk and a negative risk. Just to be clear, for all those who know me, that I believe that risk is possibility that bad or good things may happen. And yes, a lot of good can come out of social media. But
Mhm.
man, we're getting whacked by this negative risk. And part of it is probably as parents, we're so involved in social media ourselves
Yeah.
that we don't really recognize it. But um,
Yeah.
we grew up in an age before it, and I think that it leads to a different way to adjust to social media than the current generation that know nothing of it. It's
Yeah.
um, I certainly see it in my students. So for me, the interesting thing about this, when I first heard about this, I said, yeah, okay, finally. And I didn't realize actually several US states have done it
Yeah.
already. So that shows how ignorant I was. But my second thought was we're so concerned about the tiny little risks, but the huge risks that exist amongst us in our day-to-day life, we totally ignore.
Yeah. We seem to be looking at symptoms of the problem, but I think Jonathan Haidt and others are really getting to the root cause. These school boards are trying to get to the root cause and stop this because and it's playing out, let's put our risk management hats on for a second. I mean, you look a lot at behavioral finance, and when we touch on this topic, I start thinking to myself of Wall Street bets, and I think of, the use of Robinhood to make quick trades. I think of zero-day options,
Mhm.
that phenomena. I don't know too much about it, but it's taking on a lot of risk. It's kind of a get rich quick scheme. It's mostly young people trying it out. Um, and I wonder if that has something to do with, phone use at an early age, not just the medium itself, because we need to draw a distinction there, I think. There's the medium of social media, which is inherently addictive, and it's been, you know, amplified to be like that. But then you've got the content as well that's traveling through that pipeline, and that is finfluencers, momfluencers, all sorts of, a whole industries have popped up selling you advice and ways to improve your life that may not improve your life, by the way. So I see some stuff going on in the markets. I guess you could put crypto in that category as well a little bit, and I wonder, is this a generational phenomena that you have to be raised on smartphones to kind of buy into it a little bit? What do you
Now,
think?
to kind of flip things around,
Yeah.
okay, there's never been a generation which the generation in front of it hasn't said, wow, are we ever, coming to the apocalypse with this coming generation,
Yeah.
that things are going to be disastrous. I think, the first caveman was, you know, they were absolutely shocked at the next generation of cavemen and thought that cavemen were going to disappear from the face of the planet.
Yeah.
We see evidence of this in the 1400s, in the 1500s, literally every generation. And, so ultimately I am a believer in humans, but I believe that we do adopt, we do change, we do uh, uh, gain experience. But I think the challenge here, putting on the risk hat is how do we deal with these monster social risks? Because it's not like as a corporate risk manager, you can control this. You
Yeah.
can't tell someone, you might be able to tell them, you cannot use social media uh, when whenever you're within the presence of the organization or on the organization's time. But you can't tell them, that you can't use social media uh, when you're away from the organization. But you really have to have uh, a head made of butterscotch pudding to think that social media outside of workplace does not affect the workplace.
Yeah.
And uh, it's interesting, you know, one of the things that I find interesting amongst people my own age is I come back to one of three things I learned in business school, and I only learned three things in business school. And one is just when you think it's a trend, you find out it's a cycle. And you know, I think that you're seeing this. Uh, so who knows? I don't know, but I do think that the lesson from all of this is for risk managers to step back and say, hey, you know, am I focusing on the splinter in someone else's eye while there's this huge log coming towards my own eye, to badly quote from the Bible? But
Yeah.
anyhow,
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's the beauty of risk. You have the time to step back from some of these things. You're not in the front line and reacting to stuff. So, okay, well, Rick, I think this is a conversation we'll pick up again no matter what. It fascinates both of us. And this is just the beginning of these lawsuits. So, just like when, Facebook was sued about it's body image, creating a negative body image problem in especially teenage girls. We're gonna see Mark Zuckerberg on the stand again and see if he's learned how to drink a cup of water properly. So
yeah,
it'll
I'm
be
not
interesting.
exactly sure that much is going to come of the lawsuit, but if it does
Yeah,
nothing but state that there's a problem, then
yeah,
it will have been worthwhile.
yeah, exactly. Okay,
You know, you can't put the genie back in the bottle.
no, exactly. It's dealing with what's out there now, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, Rick, it's been good chatting, and we'll see you again next week in the same digs, I think.
And the same digs for one more week, and hopefully only one more week.
Sounds good.
Have a good one,
All right.
everyone. Have
See you
fun.
then.